the official start now. So yeah, thank you very much to all who are joining us. It's a very exciting moment for us. So we're very happy that you've joined us and also that you contributed to the community survey, which will be the focus of this meeting. But my name is Emily Toner. I'm at ISRIC World Soil Information, speaking to you from Wageningen in the Netherlands. And the other two presenters you'll hear from today are our director at ISRIC, Rick Vandenbosch, and also Kirsten Wagner from Bind Consultancy. And we have a nice program today. We are going to do a little more talking than we hope will happen in the program moving forward. This is really a community-oriented program where we want a lot of back and forth, but we thought today it's a good opportunity for us to explain the concept of this program, share back some of the feedback you already gave us from the survey, and then also do some interaction. So we hope to do it by chat for the most part. So the way that we will go about the program, I will start with some introductions, and we really hope that you all introduce yourself in the chat. Then Rick is going to give some background of this whole community of practice concept and program. Then I will share some of the results back from the survey, some really nice, interesting things that we learned from you all about what you are interested in. And then Kirsten will talk about the community aspect of this program and what it means for you all and for us and what the different roles might look like. And then at the end, we just want to hear from you. Okay, how did all of that sound? Did it meet your expectations? Are you still interested? We really hope so. Yeah, we will start with introductions. And in order to really get some engagement and hear from you, even though we are in a larger group where it's going to be hard for everyone to speak, when you see this chat symbol on a slide with a question, we really, really encourage you to put your feedback or interact with us through the chat. So we're going to start off with that. And as Mary just put in the chat, I should have introduced our chat moderators as well, but as Mary put in the chat, I'll introduce her in one moment. Please share your name, your organization, and country with us. Ali Mahdi already did that. Fantastic. Thank you for starting it off. And then if you'd like to share anything about your expectation of this meeting, we're really curious already to hear from you what you're thinking about coming into this meeting. So I want to acknowledge my two colleagues, Mary Steverink Musugu and Ashanafi Ali, who is a guest researcher here with us at ISRIC. And Mary is a project manager who will be moderating the chat. So they'll be placing some questions in the chat for you that align with the slides, and then they'll be keeping an eye on it. If you have questions or feedback, they'll make sure that it's seen in the chat. So please use the chat as much as you can. Okay, so let's keep going, I think. All right, so yeah, we'll look forward to seeing your introductions in the chat, and we'll just keep moving along, I think, to the first part of the presentation with Rick. Let me spotlight Rick for everyone so they can see him, and we'll get started with what is the concept of this program, this community of practice?
Yes, thank you very much, Emily. So my name is Rick van den Bos. I'm the director of ISRIC. And so many of you will know that we have been involved in the business of soil information, soil knowledge, soil education for a very long time, from the 1966 actually. And in the recent years, we've also developed let's say in the last 10 years, we've developed a global soil information product called Soil Grids and a global database called WOSIS. And at a certain moment, there was this belief that if we continued with this global database and global map, that we could serve many, users in the countries with such a product. But then somehow we changed gears, because we thought, no, this is not the direction that we need to go. It's much more the task of the people in the countries who produce soil information, to develop soil information products for their stakeholders, rather than ISRIC doing it from far away in the Netherlands. And then slowly by slowly, this idea of a community of practice evolved in our minds, and we've been discussing it, I think, already for 2 years. And then we send out this questionnaire and say, listen, what would you think if we would accommodate such a community of practice? And then you gave us your feedback. And the whole idea of such a community of practice is to share ideas. These are 5 bullets about our vision for a soil information community of practice. One is to share ideas and to strengthen each other's work. If you're working in one country, probably the people in your country next to you are working on the same issues or similar issues. You can learn from each other and share ideas. But also to provide collective leadership. If many people many people like you have a collective demand or a collective idea about things, we can bring that, much more easy and much stronger to, for instance, donors or whatever. So we can bring together the demands for instance, professional development as a collective undertaking. Third was, the innovation. We should continue innovating together and not on small islands. So if we work together, we can inspire each other and we can share innovations in order how to develop soil information systems. And very important is the development of standards. If we all do things in our own way, and we don't follow the international standards, or we don't develop international standards, it will be very hard to exchange information. For instance, if we want to develop continental level soil information products, and it's very good as a community to have standards on how we do things. And that could also be one of the topics in this community of practice. And then, of course, to strengthen connections between, for instance, the field-based scientists and the computer-based scientists. So what are you doing in the field, and how does that relate to my database, and how can these things be connected to each other? But also, and maybe even more important, the connections between the developers of soil information and the users of soil information. It is a big topic. We just start from a technological point of view, not demand driven. We can produce a very nice soil information system, but if it's not used by the user, if the information is not there in the information that the user needs, or not in the format that the user needs it, then we have done nothing. So we really need to connect to the user before we even start thinking of developing a soil information system. So these things are, for us, somehow a reason why we think a community of practice of soil information providers can be very useful to spur also the knowledge of the soil in Africa, to inform sustainable land management, because that's what it's all about. How can we manage our land in a more sustainable way and improve productivity in a sustainable manner? And you need to know about the soils to do that. Okay. Next slide, please. And why do we think, that I started actually my introduction with this? Why supporting national level institutes? There's many good reasons for that. Because, and I'm sort of assuming that you represent national level soil information institutes, you have the access to large quantity of existing data. In all these countries in Africa, in the past, the soil have been sampled, measured, and those data are somewhere there. And that is a very valuable resource to start with when you're building a soil information system. The soil scientists in the country have a deep understanding of the soil. So if they produce products, they can much better evaluate the quality and the accuracy of those products than we would be able to do, or people in Europe would be able to do. So it's very important that these products are made by the people who understand the soils. And the people in the country are also in the position to generate new data, to start up monitoring of the soil sampling campaigns, and that is all necessary to feed into that soil information system. We assume you are also connected to end users. So what the people in your country, the policymakers, the private sector, etc., need in terms of soil information. So you can then also design your soil information system according to the needs of those users. And a very important lesson that I learned a couple of years ago is that policymakers, they wish to use products that are made by their own people in their own country, by the same institutes that they support with taxpayers' money to be run. They want to see those institutions to develop the products that they need to support their policy development. So those are five very clear reasons why we think that soil information should be developed at national level. Next slide. And the focus of this community, to our opinion, should be on national, or in some countries, I think we have some district level people here, or state level people from in Ethiopia. National, state level should be the focus of this community of practice. Not continental, not global. It should be, the soil information producers should be the main participants in this community of practice. And we, as ISRIC, we thought, let's focus on Africa. We have quite a few projects in Africa. We have a long history in Africa. The needs in Africa are there. And in order not to stretch ourselves globally, we thought that it would be good to focus on Africa. Next slide. So, can you click through the whole slide, Emily? Thanks. So every community of practice has a domain, and that is the shared area of interest. And as we said, that the practice part of the community of practice, the practice part of a community of practice refers to the shared experience, methods, stories, tools, way of addressing the problems within the domain. For us, we believe that the domain and the practices should focus on the soil information workflow. And in the next slides, I will show briefly what we mean with that. The soil information workflow is a workflow that is followed from the very beginning of your activities to the very end of your activities. And it all starts with, Emily? Yes, the data collection. So that is the first start, of course, in developing soil information. You need to collect data from the field. Next one is the analysis in the lab. And sometimes not even in the lab, sometimes also in the field, but traditionally in the lab. Then we hope that people start to store their soil samples that they have not analyzed in archives, because they can be very, very precious resource for future questions that we probably may not think of now, but are maybe important in the future. So soil archiving is an important step in the soil information workflow. Next one. Then you need to organize your data in a database. And it's nice to have standards there for organizing your data in a database. Next one. Then very often we need, for the users that we have in our mind, we need to do modeling and mapping. People refer more easy to a map than to a point database. So modeling and mapping is a very crucial part in the soil information workflow. Then, of course, it has to be applied. Not very many users want to see a map of the pH of the soil. So that is the basic information. But if you can translate that information into a nutrient gap for a specific crop, then you have information that farmers or extension workers can work with. So after mapping the things that you can measure in the lab, you need to do an interpretation to make it applicable. And that is this step. And then the last step is to open up all that information to the user. If it sits in your computer, then it doesn't serve a purpose. And how can you open it up to your users online and give the users access, make sure that your data are available, that your maps are available, that you get feedback from your users. So that is another step in the soil information workflow to make the data and the information available online. So this is how we look at this soil information workflow. And as a community of practice, we would like to focus on each and every step of this data soil information workflow. Yeah, that's it for now to set the scene. And I hand over to you back to you, Emily.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Very clear introduction of why we want, as ISRIC, to host and facilitate this community of practice, and also what is the area of work, the domain, this soil information workflow. And I think everybody who is here who filled out the survey saw that domain, that circular graphic at least once in the survey. You took the survey quite a while ago, so you might not remember it, but that for us is a very key core concept, trying to define the professional area of work for this community of practice. So I saw one question in the chat: will these slides be shared, and will the recording of this meeting be shared? And I wanted to just say to everyone, yes, they will be shared. The meeting is recorded right now via YouTube, so the link will be available very shortly after the meeting. And I know we'll get to this shortly, a lot of people answered the survey, and we want to make sure everybody has a chance to see what happens at this meeting, see the slides, and if you find this workflow concept useful, we want to make sure you can browse it later in the slides, so that will all be shared. So let's get into the survey results. So we sent you this survey invitation to take the survey, and we really thought very carefully about who to send the survey to, because we wanted to target people who are doing this national or regional level soil information production. And so we really found you specifically and to invite you into this space because we think this is relevant for you. So in the survey, we wanted to say, okay, we thought this would be relevant for you, but are you interested in this concept? And then because we know from the survey and just from being in this professional area of work for a long time, that there's already a lot happening. There are networks, there are trainings going on, there are different groups who already do try to help serve this soil information community. So the survey was trying to say, okay, where are there gaps? What else can we do to help with professional development, with connecting to each other to produce better soil information? And then out of all of that information you share, identify key areas of potential. So there were 24 questions. The survey was in English. It was open for the month of April. And we received over 100 responses, which was really nice to see. So we sent it to 116 people. We got back even more responses because it got shared slightly more widely. We had 26 different countries respond, which was a really nice diversity. And I have so you can see the list of countries there. I'll leave it up for just a moment. And then I also have a map showing the geographic spread of who responded. So I'll put up that map now. So really nice, wide range of where people were coming from in their responses. And yeah, I have about 10 slides now that I'll share some of the most interesting insights that came from you all. And, I think people were very thoughtful in their approach to filling out the survey. And now you can see where people's thoughts were aligning and what are the areas of opportunity for this community of practice. So we said within this soil information workflow, those steps that Rick just outlined, where do you most often already do your work? And we saw that the data collection, soil surveys, being out in the field describing, and getting this soil data together, that's where a lot of people were doing work, as well as trying to apply it, probably, helping answer questions about land use planning or agricultural production. But when you look at where people want to expand and develop their area of work, modeling and mapping was very popular, the most popular response. And then we also see serving data and information really jumped up. I saw a lot of responses about lab analysis, either people who want to improve their own labs or just need better access, after they've collected these soil samples, better access to testing them. So I think modeling and mapping and applying and serving the soil information as well as the lab analysis side are some of the top areas people are saying they want to do more with. We asked an open-ended question. So this one was just a text box and said, what are the top developments that interest you about soil information? And of course, we got 126 different answers. But interestingly, many people were commenting on similar topics. These were the top 3. So digital soil modeling and mapping was a huge interest for people. Soil spectroscopy and spectrometry, proximal soil sensing was also mentioned quite frequently. And then in this, the third most popular response was using remote sensing and GIS in soil survey and other applications. Another area that was also popular but just had very diverse responses was how to apply the soil information. So people want to talk about nutrient management and fertilizer application, but then there are just many, many different ways people want to apply soil information. So I could see that there would be a lot for this community to share about practices for trying to apply for climate change or policy development. And I have a couple of answers here that I'll show in quotes, which is just a specific response someone gave. So of course, modeling for erosion is probably something that almost every country is trying to do in some way. And I added one specific example somebody gave here because I thought it was kind of wrapping up a lot of topics that many people were mentioning. So this person said, the top area of interest for me is using models. Use of models and decision support tools, machine learning, developing algorithms in order to extract the value of all this soil data and in the end, improve decision making. So I can imagine that resonates with a lot of people. It definitely does for us at ISRIC. Okay, a couple more questions and the results. We asked you, what are the largest challenges that you face in producing soil information? And the way I could summarize the most common response was limited resources. So yeah, about half of people said either we need a better lab access or lab equipment. In some cases, just our facilities, our computers, our buildings, this kind of things, our IT infrastructure, they just aren't quite good enough. We need more and better equipment, and also financing. We just might not have the level of financial support that we need to produce good soil information. So yeah, I think resource limitation across the board, probably everybody can identify with it in one way or another, but also, and I think key for this community of practice, knowledge and skill building. So maybe finding the right resources or the time or the trainings that you need, and then just actually having the data available to produce the soil information products. And then this last one, making soil data useful, which yeah, I think from the previous slide, just how can you apply the soil data into actual decision making? So interesting to see where people are aligned on this. So then on the topic of collaborating internationally, we did want to just double check with the community about this, because I can imagine within your institutional environment, you have a lot to do already. There's a lot going on, and this collaborating beyond national borders could be a bit of an extra thing and might be hard to find time for it, but actually people were very, very enthusiastic about it. Everybody was saying, of course, sharing knowledge is key to doing, my professional area of work. We can find out how to advance our technology, what innovations are happening. We can avoid duplicating things that are happening elsewhere, lessons learned. People were excited about having more and better avenues for networking with each other on these topics. There was specific interest in developing standards and harmonizing across country boundaries. And then also having the opportunity to look at a more regional level when you're trying to produce a map or an application where it's relevant to go beyond just the political boundaries and look more at agroecological systems or things that are kind of make more sense beyond just your country. So everybody, 100% of people said, yes, we want to have international collaboration on this soil information workflow, and we're enthusiastic about the community of practice idea. So then we also said, what would you like to receive through this program or contribute to even? And, I think the biggest thing was just sharing information, sharing knowledge, trying to have, if you have expertise, being able to share it easily. And if you're looking for expertise on a topic, finding the right people who have that. And of course, yeah, if there are advancements, new methods, a new interesting decision support tool that you could apply in your country, people want to hear about that. So that's really the top interest, is sharing knowledge and information. And then also finding and accessing trainings and workshops, maybe providing trainings to each other on topics that you've successfully tackled. But yeah, this second interest that was really there was training and workshops. Okay, this is the final slide about the survey results. So I put this chat symbol at the bottom. So if you really have any reactions to some of the survey results that were shared, we'd love to hear from you in the chat about it. And there are even more survey results, and we are working on packaging it into a summarized report so you can look further. This PowerPoint will be shared so you can already look at the slides that were there, but overall, very positive response to this idea. And to the comment I made at the beginning, there already are networks. People said they're involved in communities of practices on various topics. So what we saw, though, from this positive response is there must be gaps here, because people want more connection, and they want to pursue this new community of practice. So let's see what we can do together that's truly useful. Let's see. So I think what we're trying to identify now out of the survey results, and you heard some of it, there's a lot of enthusiasm about modeling and mapping, decision support tools, applying soil information, but we want to find clusters, whether they're topic or skill-based, or maybe you have more of a need for geographic-based networking. We want to identify these clusters as places to begin for connecting people through the community of practice. One key point to make here, because ISRIC does do training and we do support the development of soil information systems, this community of practice program for us, it's really a place to be on equal footing with everybody and to prioritize the expertise that exists within your national setting already and help you benefit from each other's expertise. So I hope you don't leave this meeting thinking this is a new training program from ISRIC, for example. There will be probably opportunities for training that come through this community of practice, but it's really about ISRIC being the equal at the table with everyone who has their own expertise to offer into national level soil information production across Africa. So that's my wrap up on the soil, or it's not a soil survey, community survey results. I really encourage you, if you have a reaction or want to make a comment about anything, please place it in the chat. But we're going to move along to the next part of the presentation.
Yes, so that would be me.
Yes, I felt a need to pause there. Maybe there's some digestion that people are thinking about. But yeah, the next part of the presentation will move over to Kirsten to talk about community development. So take it away, Kirsten.
Yes, thank you so much, Emily. So it's great to be here. My name is Kirsten Wagenaar, and I've been identifying and facilitating communities for about 15 years together with my team. And I always think it's important to discover together what community means, especially in this aspect. So Emily has mentioned already multiple times that it's something really that on equal foot, and it's about sharing knowledge. And what is so wonderful is that maybe already you can show me the next slide. No, the one with the figure, we don't have it. This one, yeah. So for the last 15 years, we have been developing a model that helps to successfully facilitate communities. And what is so wonderful is that we always start with a concept, which was basically the background that Rick just shared with you. And then we assess that. And what has been so remarkable is that we had such a positive results from the survey, and so many of you have been filling it out. So that's I've never seen that before. So I was telling Emily that this is really wonderful, and it is so wonderful to see that so many of you are willing and probably able to join this community. So we're at 46 people here already today, which is great. And now we're going to basically find out together how we can form this community. So I already saw in some of the comments that some of you are wondering, okay, what is expected from me in this community? How will the approach be? And we will share a little bit about that, but it's also something that we still have discovered together. This is basically a kickoff also to see how many of you are interested in taking a proactive, active role in this community. So we have a couple of questions also for you in the chat, and I hope you can share as much as you can as possible. Maybe you can show me the other model, Emily. So, no, the one before? Yeah. So this is something that maybe you also recognize in the communities that you are participating in, or the communities that you see around you, is that almost every community is based on a smaller group, a core, that are the leaders of the community. So some people in the community, they are part of the community, but they're waiting for the core to decide what's happening. They are the leaders, and the rest basically takes a lot of benefit from what the leaders are doing, what they are creating. So you cannot really create a community if you don't have that core or of creators, of leaders. And I would say the fact that you're here already puts you a little bit in that piece of the pie that you are a leader, or that you would like to, have impact on this community, and that you would like to help us with giving shape to this community. So I'm very curious about how did you see yourself in this, and what kind of role you usually take in communities. So that would be my first question, Emily. So maybe we can go, to this one. How do you see your own role in this community? What kind of typical role would fit you, or that do you recognize for yourself when you're part of networks, or when you are sharing your knowledge in other networks or communities? Are you somebody who's very proactive sharing the knowledge, who's always busy with thinking about, what can I share with my peers? Or are you more somebody who reacts to somebody else? Do you consider yourself an expert on a specific topic and you wish to take that role and help other people with their questions? Or is it a role maybe that's not on the screen right now?
We have one expert so far. Okay,
Yeah.
more coming in.
Do you want
Nice.
this slide at all, Kirsten, or
Yeah, I
we
wanted
skipped
to.
it?
Yeah, we could also share this, but I can once we have a little bit of
Go back.
idea of what
Okay.
people, then we can go to that one. Yeah. So that's so interesting to see so many members of the core group of communities. Usually they like to take on various roles because they also like to sometimes change between roles. But it's wonderful to see that a lot of you like to share their knowledge. So it means that you are initiative takers, you are proactive, and you like to also think about it during your work or during your day. Like I've had a very interesting insights and I would like to share that with my community. Or I've had a very interesting discussion and I would like to know what my community thinks of that. So, and also the networking is beautiful to see that you're all very interested in who else is busy in this field. You want to get to know people. So these are very important characteristics that we need for the community to work. Yeah, great. Yeah. So you see all people who say, I would love to take 3 roles, which is wonderful, because imagine if we all have that intention of really proactively sharing, then we only need to facilitate that. And sometimes, maybe you can show me the other figure, Emily. Sometimes we also see that in certain situations or in certain periods, you might not want to be super proactive. You just want to maybe read something that somebody else has written, or you just want to maybe vote something or respond very quickly. So it's not said that, this group is always going to be very active. It's normal that sometimes you're a little bit less active and sometimes you're a little bit more active. But I think the point that I want to make, and something that we see with communities a lot, is that the core group basically is the one that has huge impact on what the community is, on what is being talked about, and also about the rules of engagement. So what's our culture? How do we have this interaction together? Does it feel safe? Does it feel transparent? So I'm very curious, at the end of the meeting when we say, did it meet your expectations? Whether you're thinking, this sounds great, I want to be part of a community like this. So it's wonderful to see everybody, you see Emily, sharing their roles, and super nice. So I'm thinking, did we have another question?
Yeah, I think you had. No. Well, you had one up here that we skipped over. Yeah.
Yeah, so this would be an interesting one, of course, because we have also now we are on a digital medium. Of course, we are in certain circumstances, we're very, very far apart, but still we can see each other and we can talk to each other because we have this wonderful digital world since 20 years. I was wondering who of you has experience with sharing their knowledge digitally? So how do you go about that? Do you feel just as comfortable? Is it very different for you? Is there anything you can share about that? Because of course, this is also sharing digitally, but you can also think about, a website with a profile where you have discussions and you can read the discussions that other people have with each other. So
Yeah, I saw we have 2 questions going in the chat at the moment, which
I
is
see it.
we're getting a lot of positive vibes, which is great.
The 4 and 5 would be the roles, I think, that they're referring to.
Well, we had a preemptive on a scale of 1 to 5, how interested do you feel in the community?
Oh.
Mary put in the chat. So we're getting 5s. People are very interested, which is nice. But also this question that Kirsten is referring to, it would be nice to hear answers to that. What is your experience?
What do you mean by digitally? Basically what we're doing now, you know, so if we will share knowledge together, we actually have to come into an environment where we can all, you know, exchange the information. So that would be either in webinars or meetings, Zoom meetings, or it would be on a platform where you basically have questions and responses, where you develop knowledge together while writing your knowledge. So it would be more like a digital community platform or like a forum. Maybe you're more acquainted with that word. Because I'm asking you, because I know for some people this might be a little bit of a you know, a challenge to feel like I'm going to a platform and who's going to read it and do I feel comfortable. So it's nice to hear a little bit where you feel, you know, somewhat comfortable. Great. Some people are in advanced stage. That's wonderful. Yeah. That's important. And of course, it doesn't have to be all perfect immediately. Of course, we can also together decide what the environment should look like, what needs to be in place to feel inclusive and transparent and safe. And this is something that, you know, for all of you who are thinking, oh, this sounds great, I want to hear more and I want to do more, we will get into that on the next stage. But I'm not seeing anybody. I'm checking the chat a little bit, Emily. I'm not seeing anybody that says I absolutely don't feel like that would be the way to go.
Maybe they don't feel comfortable to write it in the chat.
Even though you're very welcome to say so.
Yes.
Because we prefer honesty in this. So if you feel comfortable saying you're uncomfortable, that would be very valuable. Wonderful. I'm so happy that you're all at least comfortable with the chat. Yeah, it's true. We cannot meet in person, unfortunately, at least not every month. Nice. Okay, Emily, I think for my part, maybe we can wrap this up, this piece.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Kirsten. Well, it was nice to see the questions you were asking and also the responses. And thank you, everybody, for, I know sometimes juggling the video and the chat and everything is a lot, but you guys are doing great. And we really, I think one of the most valuable pieces of this hour will be what we heard back from you. So thank you for taking time to type into the chat. We actually have a couple more questions for you before we wrap up. And I wanted to also mention, once the presentation is over, I think we'll have time for a couple questions because we're doing great on time. But then I will stop the recording, and then there's time also where I will stick around, others might stick around. So if we want to have more talking, we can do that. But I guess since we're really trying to gauge overall interest, it's nice to do some of this from the chat. So I think we got a lot of these responses already, but so you heard from Rick about the background of this concept from ISRIC. You heard from me about survey results, what people shared with us on the community survey, and you heard from Kirsten a little bit describing what does a community mean, what style of program might this be, And so now, you know, having that a bit clearer in your mind, even though it's true, we still have to decide specifically what to do, how to connect. How are you feeling about this community of practice idea from a 1 to 5? So many people put 5 in prior, which is nice. But yeah, don't be afraid to say if it's not what you expected either. But looking really positive in the chat with the 5s.
Yeah, I noticed that Benson says he's still like, you know, so I'm happy that that you're being also, you know, you have some nuances.
Yeah, it's good. So a couple more questions because we wanted to, of course, we got to hear a lot from you in the survey. What are your professional areas of interest? What are your challenges? These different things. But we wanted to say from the people who showed up today, so I see there's about 50 participants in the meeting. Does what you heard resonate with you about modeling and mapping, applying soil information, or maybe for you, one of these other areas is the most interesting? So if you would place in the chat now, from these steps on the soil information workflow, if you could pick your top 1 or 2 for this community of practice, what do you think would be the most valuable and most interesting? You can choose one of these topics, or maybe you want to choose a skill that comes under the topic. And maybe we'll hear from you very similar to the survey results, but if you were listening to the survey results and missing something that's your true interest, because you're here today and showing a lot of interest in the program, we'd love to hear from you what else is on your mind for soil information. So modeling and mapping is coming in. Most frequently here, applying soil information. A couple data collections, yeah, because I think we heard people prior to the official start of the meeting saying they're involved with soil survey. So I can imagine data collection is interesting to some people. Digital soil mapping. Yeah, okay, it's kind of aligning with data organizing. I think that's the first one I've seen come through with that. But mostly aligning with what we saw in the survey, I would say. Okay, we have, I think, 3 more questions for you. So I'll just keep moving and then we'll end with any open questions you might want to ask. So we have a continental-wide group here, which is wide geography. I think we probably have very nice diversity of expertise and topics that people are experts on. So we wanted to get your opinion. If you could aggregate the community by region or topic or skill, do you have coming out of this conversation an opinion on how would you like to see this community of practice grouped? Maybe you prefer interdisciplinary topic is coming up. So interesting. So I'm seeing a lot of preference towards topic versus geography. So maybe you don't need another East or West Africa group. You prefer a soil, digital soil modeling group, something like that you want to dig in on. Topic and region. I wondered about that myself. Maybe both are what might be useful. You know, East African digital soil mapping group, something like that. Okay, mostly topic, some saying geography, integration of topic and geography. Okay, nice. Thanks for your feedback. The last 2 questions are really focused on how we can connect moving forward. So I've been emailing you all with the meeting invitation, and we have your email. We can continue to do that. But moving forward, we hope to get more and more interactive and allow you guys to connect with each other, not just me sending you messages. So we'll work on that as we build this program, but right away, we wanted to hear from you if we could form a chat group for this community of practice just to get lines of communication open. What is the texting app that you already prefer? We know some people really use WhatsApp. In some places, Telegram is more popular. So basically, whatever we hear the majority of here is what we will start with. Yeah, Slack. I thought about Slack too. We don't use Slack at ISRIC, but I know it's really popular, nice way to connect. So that's a good option there.
I can imagine Slack because it's like WhatsApp, but then with multiple channels. So you have a better overview. You don't get overwhelmed with all kinds of topics.
Mm-hmm. I saw one mention of Slack, just out of curiosity. If anybody else likes Slack, feel free to put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, or no Slack.
Or can set up the Slack for us. That would be helpful.
I missed the WeChat.
Yeah.
I don't use WeChat myself. Do you use it, Rick?
No, it's
No,
more
okay. Yeah.
It's not as popular. No, WhatsApp is incredibly popular. That's
Yeah.
true.
Okay.
Everybody has it. It's super easy to use.
Great. Well, thank you for responding there. I think we got a good sense of what people prefer. I see a lot of WhatsApp. We'll download the chat and kind of count it up later, but thanks for putting your preference. And then the final question before we just open it to any questions and also shut the official program and just open it for conversation if you want to stick around, is if this sounds really good to you and you're feeling enthusiastic, we would love to know if you would like already to say, I want to be part of this and volunteer to help organize it. And we know that's an extra level of commitment and interest. And if you're not feeling that way, that's completely fine. We really are happy that you're interested in this community of practice, this area of work, and we'll be very happy to continue extending the invitation to you. But we also need some people to kind of come into the meeting rooms with us and help make some decisions moving forward about where to focus, what type of platforms people will connect on, and other things. So yeah, if you are interested, please put your name and email in the chat and we will follow up with you very soon. So yeah, I think that's the final slide we have for the whole presentation. And the next time we want to get people together would be in about 2 months, just so we can start getting the feeling for regularly coming together. Hopefully between now and then, some of you that are volunteering in the chat will touch base with you and start talking already about organizing the community. And then next time we can talk more about how to connect with each other and get started with all the sharing information that you guys are really enthusiastic about. So
many volunteers, Emily.
I know. Fantastic.
Fantastic. Yes.
So I think I will stop sharing the screen because then we can see each other better, and just ask if anybody has questions, comments. I can always reshare the screen again if somebody wants to refer to a slide. So I guess if you would like to ask a question or make a comment, the easiest way to manage it is if you can raise your hand, either the digital Zoom hand or your hand in the video. If you don't have video and you can't find the digital hand, you can also just unmute yourself and speak. So I don't see any hands at the moment, but if anybody has questions, comments, okay, great. So we'll start with Benson, then we'll move to Vincent. So Benson, if you want to unmute, we'd love to hear from you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Hello.
My quick small question is, I see this to be very interesting. I'm biased towards analysis. That has been my work almost all life. But I know there would be one or maximum two within Zambia. Those who are really field oriented. If I were to suggest that one be included, how would that go? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Benson. So I hear that you are really oriented towards analysis. And did you mean data analysis or laboratory analysis?
Laboratory.
Laboratory analysis. And then that you were also voicing people who are field oriented could be interested. And I missed the last part of your comment. Could you clarify the last part that you said?
I was asking whether that is okay, and if it's okay, how would I give a name of such a person who would be interested? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Definitely. Yeah, I think we, at the beginning of this, if people are producing soil information at any point along the soil information workflow, we want to invite them in to see if this community is of interest and useful to them. And it could be that the community tends towards, let's say, digital soil mapping, and somebody who's more working in the field doesn't find it useful right away. Let's see how it goes, but they're very welcome to join the conversation, and hopefully then we can foster more interdisciplinary conversations by having them here as well. So thank you for thinking of it. You're welcome to send their information to me and I can add them to the email list. Vincent, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon from France. Well, I think we're in the right direction. Mine is actually a comment. I think we at the seminar yesterday in Toulouse, some of these things came up. So the first one is we are from different countries of Africa. So I think it will be helpful to aggregate maybe West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, North Africa, then I think Central Africa. So it would be nice to build a community of practice as we have the continental node, but at sub-regional level also. I think that would be great. And the second one is, I think everybody here is Anglophone. How do we bring in our colleagues from Francophone part of Africa? And the last comment, OCP Africa and some organizations have been involved in soil mapping and a lot of funding, a lot of projects in different countries in Africa. So I think we may also need to extend to some partners or development partners. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vincent. Great comments. I can tell you're a strategic thinker following this whole concept very well. Yeah, so I think the idea of doing sub-regional, these regional groups, it's an idea that's floating for us, and let's see if people gravitate towards that. I saw a lot of people saying by topic. We need to see what works best for people. We did make the choice to present the program right now in English. That's the language that ISRIC works in most frequently. We do have projects in Africa like Soils for Africa, which also bridges to do French. So it's also a consideration for us. We chose to start it in English, and let's see how we can expand from there. And then, yeah, on the point, I don't know, Rick might want to comment, but about how to bring in other partners like OCP or other institutions that cut across different areas of work in Africa around soil information, agricultural productivity is also on our mind. We really wanted to start with the people who would be the members of the community and hear where you want to focus, and then bring in partners as it suits the community's purpose. But Rick, do you want to say anything about it?
Yeah, I think it's very valuable what Vincent was saying. The language is an issue. And we need to see if we can have a Francophone node or something like that. So that point is taken. For OCP, we are working a lot with OCP. So it's a very good example of people who can bring into this community to also share their experience and their activities. Same for instance, an institute like ISRIC that has been very advanced in soil spectroscopy. You know, if they would be interested to join us here and share their expertise in soil spectroscopy, that is all should all be possible in the future. That's how we see it. That it's not ISRIC and people from Africa. It's from all over the world. People who are interested in forwarding the soil information provisioning in Africa, they can become part of the community. Emily, you're muted.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, I was trying to remove these spotlights that I put on us a little bit by accident. So good comments, Vincent. We recorded them down, and they're definitely topics that we have on our mind as well. Any other comments? I see we're at 3:03, so I might actually take the opportunity to close the official part here so that if you need to go, we want to respect your time. So thank you, everybody, for first of all filling out the survey in April. Your input is very valuable, and it will be the basis of the decisions for this community of practice. And then secondly, thank you for showing up today, being active in the chat, and for your enthusiasm. I think there's a lot of potential here for a community of practice, and we saw it in the survey. We can feel it again from you here today. So we just really want to appreciate you, and we look forward to being partners with you on this program. So I'll thank Kirsten and Rick also for their presentations, Mary and Ashanafi for helping to moderate the chat. And then I'll bring the program, let's say, to an official close, and I'll stop the recording. And then if anybody would like to stay around, you're very welcome to do that, to talk to us. So thank you again.
Welcome.